Have you ever wished that you had a master floral designer that you could have stand beside you step by step and teach you the process of floral design? My name is Kirby Holt. I'm a master floral designer with more than 25 years of experience in the business, and I want to show you step by step how to create beautiful floral designs with the kits from myfloraldesign.com. I hope you enjoy this video and this series. I'm excited to show you this really unusual arrangement today, kind of a different style. This one is really good for a coffee table because a coffee table is down below eye level, so you often look down into it, and I'm going to create kind of a swirling effect with all of the flowers and branches that I used today. And then on the inside of it, we're going to have a grouping of orbs, both moss and little grapevine orbs, and really a beautiful, very interesting centerpiece. Works very well for a coffee table, but also a breakfast table or anywhere that a low round centerpiece works for you. Often when we are thinking about a round centerpiece, we think in terms of something traditional, but this is not a traditional arrangement. You'll find it's very stylish. Now, I have cut maybe 5 inches of wire off of the first stem, and I'm going to take my knife and just peel away most of that plastic that's on there. And I always do this when I'm doing insertions that I don't want the flower to swivel, because we will bend just a little bit of a hairpin into that, and when I insert it into the styrofoam, and we've already glued the styrofoam into the container, covered it with moss for you, and so when we insert that into the side of the styrofoam, and then I can just gently begin to bend. And when you're bending these, just shape that so that it's very natural, and you want it to curve, not have a corner or a strong bend. You want just a curve all the way around, and just create a little bit of a flow. And we're going to do this with a couple more orchids and create just a swirl all the way around the edges of the container. So this is what you'll start with to begin with. And then I'm going to take a second one and do about the same thing. Cut about 5 inches off. Strip away the plastic. This is an important step. Don't skip this step. Bend that little hairpin into the end of it so that it'll lock in. And I'm going to come about 1/3 of the way around the circle, and then again insert that from the side and get that movement going, bending just gently all the way down the stem. And you can see it's not quite laid in yet, so I'll come down close to the bottom, lay it in a little tighter. And this is something that as you progress through making the arrangement, you can continue to twist it until you're happy with the way it looks. Now, this one I'm going to pull it in so that the tip of the orchid is kind of laying right in behind the other orchid. Now, this last orchid, I'm going to do the same thing. Come about 5 inches up the stem, strip away, and then twist that little hairpin in. And again, about 1/3 of the way around, so that we've used that piece of styrofoam in thirds to place these orchids. And you'll see that they'll move around as you're making the arrangement. The more insertions we put in, the more we'll be able to kind of lock them in place. But the final is just that swirl all the way around. There's a little bit of an opening right here on the top side, and we have a leaf that's going to lay in there so that it brings a little bit of textural relief. Anytime we're doing an arrangement that is monochromatic or all one color, we want to use a lot of different textures so that we create some interest there. Much like walking through the woods, almost everything is green, but you have so many different textures that it's peaceful, and that's often what we think of with monochromatic arrangements. They create a sense of peace. Again, I've stripped away just a little bit, put a hairpin, and I'm going to twist and bend this leaf and lay it. I'm going to pull that orchid up so that I can kind of lay this one in right next to that orchid there. Hold that up so you can see what I've done. And then I want to bring that leaf so that it kind of finishes the swirl or the circle into that opening that I had left with the orchids. And then I have one more large leaf, and I'm going to cut maybe just 1 inch off of it and then strip away, create that hairpin. And everything is swirling in the same direction. So I want to bring it over to this side here and place it in and it will lay inside the orchids, much like that right there. And of course, your eye will tell you kind of how you want things to lay and where you want them to sit in the arrangement. But this is what we've achieved so far. All right, now to give the second layer, I'm going to take this bush of branches, and this is really like a birch branch, synthetic birch branch. And the great thing about the synthetic ones is they're filled with wire on the inside, and we can twist and bend those, and they'll do what we want them to do. And because we don't have as much swirl, as these aren't heavy on the ends, we don't necessarily have to make that hairpin on the end. If we had a lot of weight that we were trying to control, that's when the hairpin becomes important. But these don't have a lot of weight on the end, so we don't have to do that hairpin. And we have 5 stems of these, and you can just kind of put them equally distant or equidistant from each other around the inside. And notice here how I have more of a bend and a bend. I want to come in between, soften that so that all of my bends are curves and not strong corners. Everything should be real curving, and this the very, very soft line. And often we think of the curved line as the line of beauty, the straight line as the line of duty. If you think of maybe the columns on the front of a government building, we think they look so straight and strong. If you think about the Coke bottle and all of those curves, or a beautiful lady, then that's the line of beauty. So curved lines give us that line of beauty. They're also easier to live with visually. They're easier to look at for a long period of time. The eye just kind of flows with them. And really this whole arrangement has a lot of movement. The branches, the orchids, everything kind of swirling, almost makes you think of a whirlpool and the movement of the water flowing in a circle. Same thing that we're trying to achieve with the lines of this arrangement. And you can see that as I've put those in, I've just kind of let that swirl around through the orchids as if the orchids were growing maybe in a mass or a tangle of wild vine. Same thing here. I'm bringing a couple of the stems up to the inside and then letting some of the others go to the outside. And as we do this, it really creates almost a bird nest effect. And really creates a little shelter inside for those orbs that we're going to place in later. And these, we are doing these orbs, but in your own home when you're using this, it would be beautiful to put some potpourri in here. It'd be a wonderful way to add the fragrance of the potpourri and the textures. And if I were going to do that, I would definitely use only the colors that are in this, maybe the greens and browns. I wouldn't put a bright color in, because the whole one of the charms of this arrangement is it is so very neutral. It's almost like having a plant in a room. I don't usually, if I'm decorating a room, I don't usually put more than one showy or centerpiece type flower arrangement, because it becomes too much in a room. And so what I try to do is have a lot of plants, and this would almost act as one of those plants, because it is so green that it doesn't compete with some of the other artwork, furniture, textures that you have going on in the room. Now this last piece, I'm letting it kind of swirl up into the middle just a little bit, so that we create just another layer, creating depth down into that arrangement. I'm going to lift that and let you see what we've achieved there. We just have a lot of movement, a lot of swirl. The smoothness of the leaves really contrasts well against the rough textures visually of these orchids. And then the final thing that we're going to do, I have given you 2 packages of orbs, and we aren't going to attach these in. You can just drop them in. They will find their own little home in there after we get them all in. There's 12 of these, and there's 6 of the grapevine ones. And so I'm just going to drop all of those in, and once I get them in, I'll just kind of straighten them, organize them, make sure that I don't have any of my mechanics or the styrofoam showing underneath them. I'm going to kind of lift that and let you see without letting them tip out. You see, we just have that clustering of orbs, creates a wonderful texture centerpiece to the inside of this swirl arrangement. Hope you like that as much as I've enjoyed creating it and presenting it to you. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you've enjoyed this presentation. I encourage you to browse the library of arrangements and videos on our website, myfloraldesign.com.